one of the problems that we all face as a sustainable sewist is what to do with all the fabric scraps and all those random bits of like lace, ribbon, trim, etc. And we always want to DIY gifts and sew our own gifts for people as you learn the skill of sewing. So I thought let's combine these two desires of most budding sewists, and that is let's make some sustainable gift wrapping purposes using our scrap fabric and things that we have in our stash. My sewing friends, welcome. If we are in fact just meeting for the first time, my name is Evelyn Wood, and here on this channel we do everything vintage sewing skills to help our modern day sewing. Sometimes we do sewing tips, tricks, tutorials. Today and there's always a focus on sustainability, and this is one that we're covering a bit of tutorial, bit of ideas, and a bit of sustainability today because I know because I deal with this problem constantly. What do you do with all of the scrap fabric that you have and random bits of lace and tiny bits of trim left over and all those buttons that you've got? Yeah, so this will be a series of projects where we talk about what to do with some of these scrap fabrics that we have laying around. How can we use them up? Creative ideas to use them. And of course, one of the big things coming to mind right now as the silly season approaches us is we know how to sew. Wouldn't it be amazing to actually sew our own gifts as well? Yes. So this is more gift wrapping. I bet that you didn't know that you had so many options for sustainable gift wrapping in your fabric stash pile right now, or even your scraps, I should say. So I have several ideas for you. I have wrapped up some of mine to give you that you might be able to implement for your next gift giving and use up some of these scraps at the same time. This will be part of a series of videos, an ongoing series of videos about how to use scrap fabric, like creative ways that we can use them. So check the description box below for links to the other videos as they come out. Now, of course, you could go to the store and buy all brand new fabrics and supplies to do all of these, but I encourage you to use items from your stash, something that you already have, scrap fabric essentially, or of course, at least secondhand or thrifted items for these, because that is the most sustainable source that we can get from, either secondhand or things that we already have. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk scrap fabric for gift wrapping to start with. So there is a beautiful traditional Japanese art of fabric gift wrapping. This is not quite as graceful as that, but you should definitely look up that for some further inspiration on different ways on how to wrap this. But using this scrap fabric for wrapping fabric paper is a fantastic way. We all have these scraps large enough. So if you don't have large enough pieces, you can of course quilt together. So just sew pieces together or piece together all the different smaller parts of fabric that you have to create one large bit of fabric that you can then use to wrap up. So I found I'm going to use this fabric that I had since January, the start of this year, when we had bushfires here in Australia and I was making kangaroo pouches for the injured animals. So I've had this for a long time. It's great to be able to reuse this. This was a thrifted bed sheet to begin with, so double whammy. I've thrifted items and are using my scraps in my stash, so tick, tick, tick for me. So you will need quite a large bit of fabric. You could either pinking shear the edges so you've got a nice neat edge that won't fray, or my personal favorite way for this purpose is to actually tear the fabric along the grain line so you get a nice neat even rectangle or square, and it won't fray anymore, but it just has a nice tiny little bit of a frayed edge to it. It's perfect in my opinion. First way and easiest way to tie is to you'll need a larger bit of fabric, fold it up much like you would regular wrapping paper, fold up the edges, and you can squish in the sides just like you would when you normally wrap paper, and then at the top just do a double knot, tweak the bow a little bit, and then you'll end up with a beautiful little gorgeous little bow-tied gift that just looks oh so cute. Alternatively, depending on the shape of the item that you have, of course, you can start to wrap it just like you would regular wrapping paper. You can use a little pin to secure the fabric underneath whilst you're then using some ribbon and trim, which we'll get to in just a moment, to actually then tie it off and hold everything in place. Which leads me to my next one that we can use is what to do with all of those random ribbons and laces and trims that you have laying around. Or maybe, you know, when you buy a bag of trims, say, and they've got 4 or 5 different ones all put in there, but you really only want like this one here, but then you had to buy all of these. This is what you can use all of those for. I just used this, I wrapped it around several times for just a bit of decoration, really. Tied a bow at the top, took out the pin underneath, and then voila, we have one beautifully wrapped, fabric wrapped gift using all items from our stash. You can use longer pieces to create a nice little bow on top, or if you have little short scrappy pieces, you could even in fact create a little pom-pom type number here like I have, and just cut them all off short, putting on lots on top of each other, tying them off, and create something like this. So it really depends on what you have to use and the kind of look that you want to achieve. The next use I have for you is how to create a tiny little gift tags out of fabric and interfacing. So that you could use these as little name tags, as gift tags, as you can write Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, put a name on it, anything like that. So this, know when you bought some interfacing one time and then it's turned out like cardboard? Yeah, this is perfect for that. So go grab that interfacing. That is what we're going to use for this. So cut your fabric into the full size that you want. And now we need 2 pieces the same size. And now cut a piece of this cardboard styled interfacing, or any interfacing will do. It can be sew on, it can be fusible, it doesn't matter. You just want something stiff underneath to give this a bit of structure. Cut your piece of interfacing about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch smaller all along the perimeter of your fabric so it fits inside. And now if this is fusible interfacing, fuse this on at this point. Next up, you want to stitch around the outside at that same 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch inside your fabric, basically along the perimeter of your interfacing underneath. I like to stitch around 2 or 3 times to give a thicker stitch and a border, and slightly, ever so slightly, not quite on top of each other, so it looks like you can actually see many different stitch lines. That's the look that I like, but you can decide whatever works for you. Obviously, this is with all layers together to hold them all together. And now what I like to do is actually fray out the edges to the stitch line in here. So I like to use sharp embroidery scissors and kind of fluff out and pull out all the threads in either direction and really rough and fluff it out so it looks really, really cute. Now this process does take quite a while, but it is worth it because the look that you get at the end is just beautiful. So you could use a little eyelet punch to put a little eyelet here for a little hole. You could use those ribbons, you know those terrible ribbons that you cut off garments that are put to hold on the hanger? The one of those will be perfect to use as a little tie to hold this to your gift. So instead of an eyelet though, this is my next tip use for you, and that is to use all of these random buttons that you have. You know, we all have a jar like this or random buttons laying around from old refashions and whatnot. We all have them. And if you've never known what to use them for, this is the perfect use, is for decorations on your gifts. So I've actually used a button on my tag here. I've just sewn the button on as normal and then have tied around my little ribbon. So I'm actually then securing it to my gift. I think this works really, really well. Imagine if you have cute novelty buttons, will look amazing. And you could also use the little buttons for the middle of your ribbon on your gifts here to tie up, will look really cute too. And I did see the cutest use of this on Pinterest where someone used 2 little white buttons to create a snowman on a little gift card, and it was adorable. So you could definitely get very creative here and use your buttons, all those random buttons, as decoration either on your little swing tags or on the actual gift on the ribbons. There's so many possibilities and we all need to get rid of those button stashes, so it's a good use. Did you ever think that you could use that many things that you already have in your sewing room as sustainable gift wrappings? I bet not. Perhaps so. If you missed last week's video on how to create these cute little money gift wallets, then that video is going to be linked down below because these are a fabulous idea to reuse the cuff of a men's shirt. So leave me a comment below and tell me your own best solution for using up scraps as gift wrapping. What do you like to use in gift wrapping? Scraps that you can tell us all so we can all get all of the ideas. Remember to read the comments because there should be some fantastic ideas from you down there as well. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, my sewing friends, happy sewing. Bye.